Welcome to Fatter Future, episode number 23. I'm your host, Steve Williams, accompanied by...
I'm Justin Callahan, and we're back!
We made it back after a 1-month hiatus.
We made it. I'm so proud of us. We did a good job.
All right, let's get into some topics today. We have three good ones. Just to quickly tell you the three topics, we're going to talk about the future of clean air, the future of your next Samsung phone, and then the future of subscription gaming. So, Justin, you want to kick us off with this first topic, the future of clean air?
Oh my gosh, this one is amazing. So you might not have heard about it yet. It actually was just released or announced yesterday. But Dyson has bursted onto the headsets. So I don't even know, what would you call that? Would you call that headphones? Would you call that a headset?
What is
it just bursted onto the scene with it's called the Dyson Zone. And it is a pair of heavy-duty noise-canceling headphones that also has an integrated, essentially a visor that does air purification of the air around, basically the air around your head, and it essentially creates a clean air buffer around your nose and mouth in this semi-enclosed space that filters out up to something like 99% of all particulates or pollen or anything in the air. But it is crazy.
It's just like an invention out of the pandemic, but did they actually start working on this before the pandemic?
No, so we actually were hard enough to believe this was actually, per Dyson's announcement anyway, it was started in 2016, and they were well into designing this thing, well into it by 2019 when the pandemic happened, and they've really just been refining the product since.
Now, I'll definitely put a picture of it here on the video so that viewers can see it if you haven't checked it out, and we'll put the link below. But it kind of reminds me of the suits they wore in Dune.
It's amazing. I still say that they need to partner with Camelback for the Dyson Zone 2. And then you have like the whole, we could basically go full Dune. It would be amazing. But it's
clean air,
crazy.
you got clean water, and you have noise canceling headphones.
Yeah, but it's also more than a little dystopian because these are massive. These are like gamer-sized headphones in bright and stark black and blue. They've got a massive plastic visor over the front of your face. They even have apparently an add-on visor that can more closely attach. It's like a rubber sole to it that allows for skin contact. So it actually will become a face mask and close you off from it. I still think my favorite feature that it has is accelerometers in it. So it can tell if you're, for example, going upstairs, and it'll increase the airflow purportedly. So.
Wow. Well, definitely they have a couple cool videos on their site that they, of the effort they went through to really test this product, and they've done, again, 2016. That's crazy. They've been working on this for a while. It's just hard to imagine you're going to walk around with these noise canceling face mask wearing headset. It almost sounds like a safety hazard.
Yeah, but you never know. Be blissfully unaware until you get hit by the city bus, right? And at least you'll have clean air in the meantime. So I am definitely I am massively intrigued to see the first one out of these live, because it's also not something like, this is not something you buy and wear at home. Like, this is pointedly designed to be outdoors. So it's one of those things that if someone buys it, we're going to see it. There's going to be pictures of it in the wild.
And I saw they were doing field testing in Beijing. So again, high pollution cities, you could see this definitely being a popular product. And, in a post-pandemic society, it might be part of your prepper's kit, right? You're like, okay, what scenario am I preparing for?
Yeah, that way you can play your post-apocalyptic playlist while you're getting that clean air filtration. It'll be great.
So better future of air cleaning. Is it really a personal thing that you want to carry that clean air with you? That's kind of what we're boiling this down to?
I think it's very interesting. I really think that while the device might just be a fad, This concept is very much the pandemic, especially like this might have been a novelty item if the pandemic hadn't happened, but the pandemic occurring is really putting full speed onto critically thinking about like sanitation, air cleanliness, all of that, in innovative ways. And I think this is a logical conclusion in some ways of that. And we're going to probably see a lot more of these.
So you're feeling future.
I'm feeling its future. I think this one and the Razer one are, they're on to something, and especially in those high urbanized zones, this is something that people might actually, initially laugh at it, but then be like, that might be great for my commute to work.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot to learn about the product in terms of like, can you clean the filter yourself? I mean, how does it charge? How much does it impact my peripheral vision or my ambient, the ambient noise I can process? But I'm going to agree with you. I think there's a future here for people taking control of kind of their own air and water. And we don't have water yet, but I agree with you. They should team up with Camelback on this. But taking control of that to make sure they're getting clean stuff coming into their body. So I'm going to agree with you. Let's go future on that. Well, let's roll into topic number 2.
All right. So for topic number 2, the future of your next Samsung phone. And so, Steve, I know you've got some good information on this topic here.
Yeah, and if you didn't know, of course, it'd be hard to have a month where we don't have like a cybersecurity, topic falling into our list. And this is it this time. It's about Samsung getting hacked and potentially losing some source code. We don't know how much, but the source code that runs their phones. And so I think the fatter future here is your next Samsung phone safe? And that might be a real question based on this hacking incident. Did you hear about the incident?
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Samsung wasn't the only target for the hackers that actually pulled off the Samsung.
Yes, this happened with a group called Lapis, and it has a $sign at the end, so it's that whole debate of whether it's 2 S's or 1 S and a $sign. But hacker speak, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, Microsoft was in the list. There were some other significant companies in the list, and it was a combination of mostly, it sounds like, social engineering tactics used to get into these various companies. In the case of Microsoft, as I understand, it was pretty quickly shut down, and in fact, the hackers even posted after the fact that they had left their downloads running, I guess, that night, and Microsoft killed them before they could complete their downloads, and they acknowledged that the next morning. So they didn't seem to get much from
They posted it before they had finished. Yeah. It's kind of wild. Apparently, it was quite literally real time. Like they posted, "Hey, we're in process of hacking you." Microsoft is, "Oh, okay, we're going to cancel that," and actually get to finish the download.
Sometimes they probably shouldn't boast while they're in the act of the crime, right? It's good to know Microsoft was watching and was able to pick that information up quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Props to Microsoft for that.
But phones have been a relatively safe environment, and certainly the app stores work very hard to make sure that what you install on your phone is not doing something malicious. But now there's this potential that with source code out there that you could have apps that, for all intents and purposes, look like they're working legit, and then exploit something in the operating system.
Well, and Samsung's a hugely popular manufacturer of phones too, and so I mean, this would be almost a different conversation if the source code for maybe LG phones or something, had occurred. But because Samsung is so critical to the world and to their phones, and a lot of people do very critical or core stuff on their phones. They do banking, they do check depositing, they do, critical phone calls or critical, personal information. I mean, and especially if something like Samsung's own services got compromised, you wouldn't even know because those are all baked into the Samsung phones. And you're placing a lot of responsibility. And I mean, not to toot Apple's horn, but right, like this is something Apple has always promoted, just that they hold their apps to this high level of standard because they don't want that to be the vector for a compromise.
And you have to think about what you have inside of the Samsung ecosystem. So, I'm a Samsung device user, and if you use Samsung Health, well, now it has some health information, knows how much you're walking, knows where you're walking, quite a bit of things there. It has its own password system, so you can tell Samsung to remember your passwords. And then certainly if you're in Samsung's product sphere, you might have your home attached to it or appliances attached to it. And so this idea that, you know, Samsung getting hacked, and it's even, you know, how far does it go with the source code? Does this let somebody potentially get to my information and through some way that I wouldn't understand just because an app running on my phone that is taking advantage of source code knowledge?
For sure. And I mean, you know, to tie this in from a little bit from a business standpoint too, I think this also speaks a lot to putting all of, you know, being careful of putting all your eggs in one basket. I mean, when you're so thoroughly in an ecosphere or a walled garden, you know, whatever term you want to use, you can be vulnerable if that area, if that environment gets compromised in any way. But if you have that kind of that balance of what tools and what services that you use, there's always that ability to kind of allow things to check and balance each other and make sure you don't have all of your sensitive data in one location.
Exactly. Well, and I think the other part is that, you know, we can't be sure. You know, these companies are releasing information and we don't necessarily know the true severity. And I think that was one of the things, I don't know if you saw that about this hacking group, but they hacked one particular company and that company put out like, oh, the hack was a laptop that was compromised, and
Yep.
and they posted that, right? And
Yeah.
didn't the hackers respond to that?
The hackers actually, yeah, they actually clarified. They did a rebuttal post with 10 bullet points clarifying the Okta post about the breach. For example, saying that you know, Okta said that they were not compromised or breached. It was an engineer's laptop, and they went on to say, well, actually, it was a thin client. In case you're not fully familiar with the situation, so just really poking fun at that. But it was also very interesting just to see both sides of that. Right? Normally, the hackers or the malicious entity stay quiet, and we don't get to hear both sides of it. So I thought that was very interesting. Lapis has not been for want of being very vocal about their endeavors or their exploits.
Yeah, and so now, you know, that kind of raises that question here: how much do you know about it? So where do you feel on this? I mean, would this event make you hesitant to buy a Samsung phone? Better future?
I mean, I think the thing is that I mean, inherently source code compromises is always a danger, but I feel like it's also something that changes so fast. Source code is constantly evolving and doors are opening and closing. And so knowing something point in time, I don't know if it would really stop me from getting a Samsung phone, but I think just being aware, and this is tying to that bit greater trend of the things in the middle are what is gonna compromise you. It's whether it's your service in the middle or your phone. It's just being aware of that, and I think that's the future here. Is that hopefully this will help bring that into the forefront of don't just give blank trust that your phone's going to protect you no matter what. Be cognizant of what information you're giving away and providing. So what about you?
I think the future message here is definitely a buyer beware message. So yeah. I would say this is it is a future. I think you should, and Samsung has Knox, KNOX, their security product. They've got some good security products, but yeah, I think it sounds like you're saying fad to this, and I'm probably saying more future, but I agree that the incident itself might be a fad, but it is a future of being aware of, has this company I'm going to buy a product from been compromised, and if so, how did they truly address it? They may have made that initial accountability announcement, right? But did they come out with a follow-up message? And almost like, to the extent you have to do your due diligence before you make a major purchase, you have to be a more educated consumer today. So okay, good. So let's wrap it up with our last topic. We're going to talk about the future of subscription gaming. You want to kick that one off?
All right. So the future is so probably pretty much everyone has heard at this point, but Microsoft Games environment, they have purchased or announced the purchase of Activision Blizzard, which is one of the top 5 gaming companies out of there, video game publishers out there. And it's definitely sent a lot of shockwaves through the industry. Microsoft is pretty prominent, and obviously they're one of the 2 big console platforms, and their Xbox Game Pass has been making a lot of waves where this kind of Netflix style approach to video games. You pay a flat monthly fee, and you get access to a expanding library of Microsoft games, but then also a kind of rotating access library of other games. And this was very clearly a play for extra content, for content that they own, that Microsoft owns and can provide. But it kind of started out as this conversation, and that's where you and I were talking about, is that what does that mean? Is this going to be this kind of divvying up and, well, if you want to play these things, go over there, you want to play these things, go over there? Or is it more of this fueling this Xbox Game Pass in the play anything anywhere kind of approach? So yeah, I'm very interested to see, but what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm definitely just going to put it out there right now that I believe this is, subscription gaming is the future, right? I think that's, this purchase, it's a $68.7 billion purchase by Microsoft. And, Activision's a strong brand. And what they're basically saying is what we've seen happen in the video streaming market is that we're buying content to create value on our subscription. And, the other thing, I think I would love to see an economic analysis of this, maybe on one of the economic podcasts, talk about this, because the $59.99 for a new video game ceiling has been around for years. I mean, probably a decade plus at least. And that has been a difficult ceiling because the consumer threshold is there, right? There just is not much willingness to go above that for a new game. So subscriptions seems to be a way to solve that. And you and I have talked about Stadia from Google, Luna from Amazon, and of course Microsoft with their Game Pass. So the big players are out in the forefront of this, and I definitely believe what this person really represent is the future. They're going to create this, like, come to this service because we have these titles, and fight for the audience. No different than you see Netflix and Hulu and the different streaming services battle over viewers. And so then, us as consumers have to decide how many subscriptions do we want at the end of the day for this entertainment value of gaming. And gaming's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So the real question to me is, what's the return on investment time for Microsoft?
Well, and I think that the answer to that, honestly, is something that you had said that stuck in my head when we were talking about this. It was just that, most gamers, especially most casual gamers, I mean, you have your hardcore gamers out there, but most people are just day to day. They like to play video games on occasion, and they probably have in their budget to maybe at that $60 ceiling, maybe buy 2 or 3 games in a year. And it's that, but that's it. They get to play those 2 or 3 games in the year, and they slowly build their library in that. But this is such a different, that low barrier of entry for $15 a month. I can play, if I've got a decent computer or any Xbox, I can play this whole range of games. And especially as they're starting to erode that need for hardware as a level. I mean, I just booted up my Xbox a week ago, and now to check out, I forget what game came on the Xbox Game Pass because I'm on it, and they had the options of, well, I could install it or I could just stream it. Wow. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll just stream it because then I don't have to wait for the download. I could be playing in 15 minutes. And so that barrier of entry, and we saw so many more people be interested and more willing to, with new movies that are coming out. We saw that growth of just interest when you're lowering that barrier of access. And I think that's going to be the play, is that if they can get that one person that was going to buy 2 or 3 games in the year, and that's not, maybe one of them was Microsoft's. Well, now if they can get them to be on subscription, that's a fair question. So
good. All right, so good discussion. So I'm future on that one. Where do you think you are on the future of gaming?
I definitely think it's the future. I a little bit, definitely watchful about the divvying up and siloing a little too much. But everything that we've seen, and honestly, the fallout, because this topic is actually, it was from kind of last month's ideas. But since then, we've seen a lot of movement where Xbox and Stadia, 2 of the bigger streaming platforms out there, the accessibility is just kind of going crazy. Like, you can play Stadia games off of Steam. You can have a tablet and get Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass. Like, they're not saying, no, you can only play this on certain hardware that you get from us. It's very much, we're seeing that growth and that open. And that'll be really nice. If that plays out, everyone can play nice. That's going to be the future of this for sure.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So to recap today's episode, Starting off with the future of clean air, we were both landed future on that, right? With the idea that personal air cleaning is definitely a viable future.
Yes, and next episode we are both going to have our Dyson Zones, and we'll be ready. You won't hear us, but we'll be so comfortable.
We're still waiting for our Google inflatable wall from the pandemic. Remember that? And then topic 2 on the future of Samsung phones. We kind of were split there, but for similar reasons. You felt more fad, I felt more future, but either way, the message was buyer beware, and take a look at the companies you're buying from and where their cybersecurity posture has been. And then lastly, future of gaming. We ended up both future here, right?
Absolutely. Game streaming and subscriptions are definitely where it's heading. It's just making sure, hopefully, it's done thoughtfully. That's all you can.
If you thought subscription fatigue was over, nope, it's just going to get worse.
That's okay. Soon it's going to be everything. I mean, hey, there's a 50-50. You could get the Dyson Zone on subscription, and you'll get free air filters every other year. It'll be great. So.
All right, well, that's it for today's episode. Please make sure you hit like and subscribe. Leave us any comments. We'll be sure to answer. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
And until next month, take care.